The Quartermaine mansion has never been a place of peace, and on November 4, 2025, General Hospital delivered yet another unforgettable storm within its gilded walls. Though Monica's passing left a void no one could fill, her final will send a shockwave through the entire family. The document confirmed what many suspected: the estate, the grand symbol of the Quartermaine dynasty, was now in the hands of Tracy. But instead of unity, her victory only exposed deeper fractures, old resentments, and the raw, bleeding heart of a family forever at war with itself. The moment Tracy claimed the deed, her smile told the story before her words did. There was no hesitation, no grace, no second thought, just the cold declaration that Ronnie was no longer welcome. Days earlier, Ronnie had ousted Tracy from the same mansion, a calculated move during a tense standoff over Monica's estate. Now the tables turned, and Tracy seized her revenge with clinical precision. Her voice echoed down the marble halls as she ordered Ronnie out, her words slicing through the family's fragile peace. It was swift, merciless, and deeply personal. The air turned heavy, and the portraits of the Quartermaine ancestors seemed to watch in silent judgment as history repeated itself, another generation driven apart by pride and property. But this time, something changed. The rest of the Quartermaines, weary from years of betrayal and blood feuds, refused to play by the old rules. Ronnie, though flawed and caught in deception, had earned their loyalty. She had stood with them through Monica's illness, through Ned's breakdown, through Brooke Lynn's fractured marriage, and her affection for the family was undeniable. So when Tracy slammed the door in her face, the rest of them made a decision that stunned even her: they would walk out with Ronnie. The grand old house, once a fortress of family legacy, would be left to stand empty. Brooke Lynn was the first to speak, her defiance wrapped in quiet heartbreak. She had fought hard for a place in that house, to restore her branch of the family's honor, but loyalty mattered more than walls and chandeliers. She gathered her things, and with Chase by her side, left without looking back. Olivia and Ned followed, not because they agreed with Ronnie's past decisions, but because they couldn't stomach the cruelty of Tracy's triumph. Michael, who had once promised Monica he would protect the family's legacy, decided to take his children and leave too. A home, he said once, isn't a house unless it holds love. The message lingered even after he was gone. In the aftermath, silence filled the halls that once pulsed with laughter, arguments, and piano music. The mansion, that eternal symbol of Quartermaine power, became a tomb of echoes. Tracy stood alone, victorious yet utterly isolated. Her reflection in the mirror was that of a woman who had won the battle but lost the war. For the first time in years, the great Quartermaine house was truly empty, and for the first time, Tracy looked around and realized what it meant to have everything but no one. And then there was Gio. Of all the Quartermaines, Joe's journey had been the most uncertain. For months, he'd wrestled with identity, guilt, and the question of whether he truly belonged to a family so defined by chaos. Emma had helped him find clarity: forgiveness was not weakness, and acceptance was not surrender. When she urged him to visit the mansion and make peace with his family, he hesitated, afraid that walking into those doors would pull him into the same storm that had consumed everyone else. But hope won over fear. When he finally arrived, expecting reconciliation, he found only the hollow aftermath of a war he hadn't fought. There, standing in the grand foyer beneath Monica's portrait, was Tracy, the last Quartermaine standing in a house stripped of love. The look in Joe's eyes told her everything she didn't want to hear: disappointment, sadness, pity. He had come to heal, but instead, he found another wound. In that moment, the irony was impossible to ignore. The boy who had once doubted his place in the family was now the only one left with the heart to carry its spirit forward. The November 4th episode wasn't just a turning point for the Quartermaines, it was a requiem. General Hospital painted the picture of a dynasty collapsing under the weight of its own name, of a woman who clung so tightly to victory that she strangled what little connection remained. It wasn't the first time the mansion had been emptied, but this time, it felt final. The ghosts of Alan, Edward, and Monica lingered not in the rooms, but in the memories of those who walked away, each taking a piece of the family's fractured soul with them. And yet, the story isn't over. In Port Charles, no ending is ever permanent. There are whispers that Tracy's newfound isolation will bring unexpected consequences. Without the family to shield her, she's exposed to guilt, to regret, and perhaps even to revenge. Monica's will might not have been her final word after all. A second document, rumored to exist, could surface and shatter everything Tracy believes she's earned. Meanwhile, Ronnie's exile may become the catalyst for a greater reckoning. Those who left with her are not just walking away from a house, they are walking toward a reckoning that could redefine what it means to be a Quartermaine. Joe's arrival marks that shift. As the youngest member, he represents both the hope and the burden of legacy. He stands as the quiet observer of a family too proud to admit it's broken, yet too bound by love to ever truly let go. When he looks at Tracy, when he sees the loneliness behind her victory, something inside him begins to change. The mansion's emptiness reflects the emptiness he once felt within himself, and now he has to decide whether to rebuild or abandon it forever. The November 5th preview teases that Gio will be the voice of reason, a poetic irony given that reason rarely survives under the Quartermaine roof. But maybe that's what this family needs, not another war, not another will, but someone who remembers what the name once meant. Maybe Joe's greatest act won't be reclaiming the mansion, but forgiving the people who destroyed it. The Quartermaine saga has always been about inheritance, not of money, but of pride, love, and pain. Monica's death didn't just pass down a house, it passed down the impossible task of reconciling the family's past with its future. As Port Charles watches this dynasty implode, one question lingers like a shadow across the marble floor: can the Quartermaines ever rebuild what their ancestors fought so hard to protect, or has the house itself finally become their curse? Tracy's victory may stand as her greatest defeat. Ronnie's exile may spark her redemption. And Gio, the boy once on the fringes, might just become the family's new conscience, the one who sees beyond walls, beyond wills, beyond pride. For now, the mansion sits silent, its lights dimmed, its corridors cold. But somewhere in that silence, the spirit of Monica Quartermaine still whispers, reminding them that love, not legacy, was always the true inheritance.